All right, let's bring it back in. Let's bring it back in. Let's just kind of like scatter around. Does any group want to kind of talk about what they thought about their laws?
Okay, you want to talk about ours?
All right, go for it.
Ours seem to fall mostly under health. We had, what chapter? 12, 13, 14, and 15.
Okay, so why did you put, so we have 12 through 15, you're saying health. Why do you say health?
Okay, so because they all talk about, well, let me talk about mine and then I'll let them talk about theirs.
Okay.
Okay, so 15 talks about, yeah, the yucky stuff, the fluid discharged from the body, and I would think that would be more of a health concern. If somebody has some kind of discharge, you don't want, you know, it could be contaminated, you don't want them passing it on.
Okay.
So it talks about being, how you separate yourself, wash everything, and you're unclean till evening, and
okay.
And then the sacrifices made after. I don't know if that's a cultural difference. I don't know if other cultures make sacrifices like that, or if that's just Israel because they, you know, abided by the law and had to sacrifice after.
We'll get to the sacrifices
after
this, but that's a good question.
15, 14 was mostly about skin disease, leprosy, itch, boil, and how I think there might be also a sense of order because the priest was checking the sick person, and there were some certain days of different discoloration of the skin, and
right.
either it was unclean leprosy confirmed, or then the person was healed, so it was clean, and then there were sacrifices. And also there was difference between wealthy person who was ill and a poor person.
Right. There's provisions made.
Different kind of sacrifice.
Right. So it's like, oh, you can't afford all this? Well, here's what you can do.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, possibly the sense of order is like your skin should not look like this. Something is off kilter with you. Something's out of order, and we need to do something to restore that.
I also think that because skin disease is very visible, that's why there are 2 chapters actually about skin disease, because you really don't really see what's going on inside the body if the person is still, but skin disease.
You can very much see that.
Yes, plus you're trying to protect your community, so skin disease is very, very important.
Good.
Okay, and then 14 or 12.
Mine was about menstrual bleeding and blood purification, and how like they would have different periods. It was 33 days for a female.
There was
No, it was actually 66 for a
This
male.
was
The blood
chapter 12?
That's about giving birth.
Yeah,
Hers is about giving birth. Or women have babies.
Good. Okay, and you put that. You thought that most of
and
those out.
also the sense of order because the women couldn't go around holy places.
Okay. Interesting. So yeah. So if there's something off here, then you know when we think about that order that we have, like who's holy, who's not, what places can you be? Good.
And
There's some order there.
I'm sorry, I think part of 15 goes under sex too, because it talks about not a period that you can't have sex. So
Good.
it kind of dictates that.
Okay. What else? We're not going to go through every person here, but if somebody wants to speak for a group, maybe that would be good.
Well, 19.
Okay. What do you have at 19?
I think it fell under like the culture difference. Well, I guess.
What did 19 talk about?
Not letting your animals breed with a different kind.
Okay.
Well, that may not go under culture difference. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
And allowing people to sow their field with 2 kinds of seeds. That may be a sense of order. And it also stated that you shall not put on a garment made of 2 different materials. I'm sure that's under a sense of order.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, isn't it? That you shouldn't, you can't wear a garment made with 2 different fabrics.
Yeah.
Seems like a very peculiar thing, but so this is why.
Interlabels.
What do you think cultural?
I think it's not directly like, I don't know, I think it's just talking about people pretty much.
Yeah, maybe it's
I
separated.
think it's like hinting at it, like saying that you should be separated. Because it's talking about animals and farming and your clothes. It's almost like,
Okay, good. What else? Anybody else want to? Okay, this group right here.
I actually think 15 covers health, cultural difference, sex and death, and sense of order. I actually
So you think 15 is going health,
yeah,
sense of order, and sex and death?
and I think it's also cultural too.
Okay. Do you think one of these helps explain it the best?
The best? Yeah, it would have to be health if it was just the best.
Okay.
It kind of falls under all of those.
Well, this is where our brains have to do some work, because the question is, and a lot of scholars debate these, none of these categories have been universally accepted as, oh, this makes sense of Leviticus, right? The difficult thing is saying, putting ourselves back in the mindset of the Hebrew people. Do the Hebrew people have health concerns at the heart of this? Or do they have different theological reasons for having these laws? Or have they just observed that when you do certain things around certain people during certain times, that you don't end up well? Right? And so they kind of coat these health concerns or wrap these health concerns up in theological justification. Right? Don't go around anybody with a skin disease that looks like this, or else we see that these kinds of people die and you will end up dying. And so thus the Lord says, don't go around these people. Right? Or are there some kinds of different things going on? So these are the tough questions. What did you guys think?
I think that for 14, just to elaborate to more what she was saying about them being basically transformed into being clean, unclean to clean. I think that's a culture difference too, because once you become clean, it's a different standard for you. For a better lack of words, I guess I want to say it'll be more so or less to be now you're worthy for worship or for sacrifices.
Okay.
So it just puts you in a different league, like far as the wealthy being able to get certain cleanses that the unwealthy are not able to get. I got it. So I think that would be like a cultural difference from the wealthy to the unwealthy.
Yeah, it is really interesting when we start talking about skin diseases, especially leprosy, and how lepers have to stay out, kind of outside the camp of Israel, which makes sense from a health concern, right? You don't want this spreading. But in the sense of our circles, and we have Israel here, and we have the nations here, right? Lepers kind of occupy this weird, fuzzy middle ground between the two, right? Because they have to be outside the camp, but they're still kind of considered Israelites. So it's this weird, fuzzy border between who's inside and who's outside until they can be cleansed and brought inside, right? Good. Does anybody have anything with the animals? Who had the animals chapter? Joan. Yeah, 11. Where does that fit?
Health,
Health, you think so? How come?
because it's telling you what to eat and what not to eat, what to touch and not to touch. If you do it, you become unclean.
Okay.
It says if you see a carcass anywhere else, if you touch it or whatever, you become unclean.
Okay, good. Now, could that maybe be a taboo about death as well? If you see this dead thing, you touch it, is there some kind of sexual taboo? Also, we have to ask with the food stuff, is this cultural differentiation? Because there's some animals that seem, for example, pigs. People eat pigs all the time, and they're perfectly fine.
No, they're
I was gonna say they think they are.
Depends how much.
not.
Right? But are some of the animals that Israel has said are unclean, is this a cultural differentiation?
Yes, that's what I think about the food.
Right? We have a health discussion over here. So is food saying, Israel kind of like saying, we aren't like these people who eat these things? Any other comments about these? No? Okay. What does 27 deal with?
Leviticus 20 verses 27.
20 verse 27? You can look at this real quick. Let's see, 20:27. A man or a woman who is a medium or a wizard shall be put to death. Ooh, what about that one? Where's this going to come in? Good. This cultural kind of helps make sense of that a lot. You cannot observe religion in these kinds of ways. Mediums, people who speak with ghosts or witches, right? This is not the people who the people of Israel are.
Yeah.
Right? So things like that, cultural differentiation really helps us understand why this law is there. Because the people of Israel are trying to say we are not like that. This is not how we practice religion. Right? So that's kind of where that command is coming from.
It could also fall under sense of order if they're trying to
I mean, the whole.
make sure you're not, I guess, stay in your place.
Good, and we're going to get to this one.
Okay.
Right? Because what a lot of you also saw, now real quick, before I move on to that idea, by obeying this sense of order, two things are able to happen. If you want to write these down, and you can just stay where you are unless you have your notes back somewhere else. The first one is in Leviticus 18:3. And that passage says, "You shall not do as they do in the land of Egypt where you lived, and you shall not do as they do in the land of Canaan to which I am bringing you." What does this sound like?
Cultural difference.
Good. This cultural differentiation. Remember the idea of holiness, being set apart. You're not to do like the Egyptians where I brought you from. You're not to do like the land of the Canaanites, or like the Canaanites to the land I'm bringing you to. You are to be a people set apart. You are to be a different kind of people. Right? And the other idea is in Leviticus 20:22. 20:22. And it says this: "You shall keep all my statutes and all my ordinances and observe them, so that the land to which I bring you to settle in may not vomit you out." Right?
Sense of order.
This sense of order, right? You can only remain there if you do as I say, right? One thing we didn't kind of talk about too much is when we were discussing some of the things earlier, was when God, the justification for God giving the land to the Israelites and taking it away from the Canaanites is pretty much like you have this picture of God being a cosmic landlord, okay? And Yahweh says, I can't bring you to Canaan yet because the Canaanites haven't done anything bad enough for me to evict them. But the time will come when they will have done enough for me to justify kicking them out of the land, and therefore you can settle there. But then it goes to reason that if they start acting like the Canaanites,
Oh, yeah.
then they're going to be kicked out as well. Right? Because there's this idea that all of the earth belongs to Yahweh, right? We have one God, not many gods. So if all the earth is Yahweh's, then all of it belongs to him, and he decides who can be in certain places and who